Welcome to this training video. In this training video, I will primarily show some coding examples in Angular.js. In the different coding examples, coding concepts in Angular.js, and just use some simple example, demonstrate some simple example. So Angular.js, as you know, it's just it can be used for web application, it can be used for mobile application, primarily single page mobile application. So why Angular and why not Angular? What are the aspects of Angular? I will not go for this. Go for that. The advantages and disadvantages of Angular. That we have other videos. You can watch them, or in our future videos we probably will discuss them. But right at this moment, I will be just primarily focus on explaining different coding examples in Angular.js. So I think these are the websites where you can find training videos by us, and also you'll find some videos on Angular, and there is at least once that explains the complete application, Angular application, and all the associated code. Okay, so this is a very simple Angular example. So what it is doing actually, you can see there will be text, insert your name, then you can see there will be a text box. You can see it is echo and some user.name or something like this. Actually what will happen is, if you type something in this text box, the value will appear here, and if you delete something from here, it will get deleted from here. So if we are supposed to write this application in JavaScript and in jQuery, what we really could be doing, we'd be writing some functions, some event handling, that on key press or on key up, we will be taking the text from this text box and we'll be putting it there. Probably we'll be using some ID with h3, or probably some other control with span or level or something like this. We'll be putting it maybe in our HTML or in our text, whatever we want, we could be doing it. But Angular has made it very simple, and how it is being done in here is, it is just creating a binding between this text box and between this place. There is a binding there. Actually this binding is two-way binding. Ideally if it gets changed, it is supposed to change, and if it is changed, it also should get changed. So this is not something that we can change depending on the control we have used it here. Anyway, so because of this binding, what is going on, if you write something, it comes here. If you delete something from here, it will also get deleted from here. Then anyway, it's just making your life way easier. So here there are some stuff in GApp. It is just telling that this body, start ending, this is under Angular, and this will be treated as an Angular application. So Angular will work with this. So not necessarily it has to be on the body. You can put it on the HTML, or you can also put even a single section with a div or some other control. If you want a particular section of your HTML page to act as a Angular application, you can use ng just to bind that section only. The rest stuff can work as your regular application, but only the portion that is under ng app will work as a Angular application. Okay, one more thing, the Angular, it's also HTML code. This itself is becoming the template in Angular. In other cases, we can say there are some templating, different syntax and this and that, but Angular treats the HTML itself as the template by using different stuff like ng model, or you can see these stuffs. And I think this is a pretty common syntax used in template engines. Anyway, so HTML itself is being used as a template, and the syntax is also straightforward. Okay, so let's say, as we are telling, there are some binding and how this actually is working here. You can say that we are telling it ng model. So it's actually coming from model view controller architecture. You know it. Angular itself declares this not as a model view controller. It actually tells a model view whatever. Okay, so it's probably situation dependent, so that you don't get confused with the term model or this and that. Okay, and anyway, so here there is a model called user. Name we can see is some sort of properties to user or something like this. So in this case we have a model called user, and this is the view part. And actually how this is being working, I think in regular model view controller architecture, you know that the request first comes to the controller, then controller make uses of the model and does the business logic implementation, all those things. Eventually it comes to the view with some information passed by the controller to the view. I think the same thing is actually happening here. Let's say there is no explicit controller here, but there is something implicit controller. There is some implicit controller here, and in that implicit controller this model actually is being placed there, and this is actually coming from that controller. So control goes to the controller. Controller has this model user, and after controller comes to the view, and view uses this model from that controller. So this is how it is actually happening here. Let's say the template, the total stuff here, we can tell it as a template. Angular is not using any different template or any other syntax for template. It's using HTML as the template, and we have told that there is an implicit controller. It is just Angular does it indirectly in the background, but we can definitely explicitly declare controller, and we can use that controller, and in the front end we can define which controller will control which part, or for which activity for which part will go to which controller. We can define that, and each controller has its own scope. In this scope we can say there is a model user. So that's how it's actually working there. So the same example, we can make the controller more explicit here. You can see body, we're telling okay this is an Angular application. Now we are defining this total body is under main controller. So you have to define the controller. So to define the controller, so we'll be defining the controller like this. Sometimes it does not have to be the syntax like this. It can be some generic JavaScript function type can work as a controller. But I think it's better that I think the big applications, they will have some structure similar to this. So we define different modules, and in those modules we define different controllers. There is one main application module, and that module can contain other modules, and those modules can have controllers, and controllers have their internal modules. So controllers can have the models, and definitely each controller has their own scope. I think from the front end we'll be defining the scope for that controller, and those controller and this scope, they will be working together. Anyway, so here we can see that the module is app module. We are defining a controller for that, and this is the scope. We are putting this message, we can say it sort of model inside as a scope, and you can see this one is actually this model. So within this main controller, this message model, it is just coming from here. So you can see there is no front-end control where we are binding a model to that control, but here what we are doing for this control, we are binding this model to it. But here this model, it doesn't have any user control to bind to this model. So what does it mean? Model can have some user control. It can have it, it may not have. Okay, so what is going on here? If we change this message from this controller internally, so this will get updated. And from here you can see if we change this model from the front end, this gets updated, and the model inside the scope that will also get updated. I think there is one sort of two-way binding here. Anyway, you can say some sort of AngularJS structure here. So you can see main controller, the corresponding HTML template, the scope, the message model is there. So the interaction is there. Okay, so you have to see that there is some model or some property that we are binding within the scope, and we using some with some front-end control. So can we bind any function? Can the controller and the corresponding scope can have any function, and can we bind that function to something on the front end? The answer is definitely yes. We can also bind a function to some front end controller or area or whatever. So you can see this button, you're binding this button to a method of the controller. So create is the method. You can see that is scope.create. Within this controller scope, there is a create method. So create method is being binding here. So if we click here, so this create function will come, will get executed. Another thing, let's see, within this create scope, where we can see another model user.name. From the model user.name within that scope, that model's value is getting added to this, and message model is getting the total value. Okay, so this user.name is a front-end controller here. So values from here will go there, and they will get concatenated with hello. The total thing will be the message model. So it will come as a greeting, and that greeting will come here because this model is being displayed here. So you know how to write function binding, how to write a function, and also how to bind that function to something front end. So ng-click, another Angular directive, it just activates the click event and calls the corresponding function and have some functionality there. So you can see there are multiple models. User.name, it has front end binding with a text box as well. Message, yeah, and greet is a function. Directive, as we saw, Angular has some built-in directive, ng add, ng-click, ng-bind, ng-model, all those different Angular directives. So you can also write your own directive, and directive can be used in two different ways. One thing is they can be used like this as part of the HTML tag attribute. Maybe let's see, if we define a directive called focus, we could just use input type equals to text space focus space ng-model equals to user.name. There the focus is our custom directive. We could write a focus custom directive to set our cursor focus. Probably we want the first control to have the focus when some web form gets loaded. We can write a focus directive and we can use it that way, just as an example. Another way of defining another form of custom directive is they can work as an HTML tag. That means you can define some directive, let's say hello, and you can use the hello as a HTML tag. So what will have Angular bracket, and then you can write hello close bracket, and then Angular bracket slash hello, close it. So that hello will be written as HTML tag, but we have to define the corresponding functionality that will be getting applied to that hello tag, and some functionality will be there. So if we see the example, it will be clear. So let's say pie chart. This is just one sort of custom directive that we can define, and we are using pie chart as an HTML as a HTML tag. We can define pie chart, a custom directive, to draw some pie chart here based on the data here, and we are providing the width and height here. Okay, probably ideally this could go after this one. Actually, still we are showing the built-in custom directive. Sorry, not built-in custom directive, built-in Angular directive. Anyway, ngRepeat is another built-in Angular directive that can be used to repeat some list or collection and to do some operation. For example, if we have an array of objects and if we want to display of those objects or the object properties, we can use ngRepeat. So let's say we have a controller, we can say developers, there is a model or something. This developer, it's an array of object. Each object has two properties, name and country. So if we want to display all this name and country in the front end, what can we do? We can use the ngRepeat. You see, we are using the li tag, list item tag, and ngRepeat will repeat this section and display each of the developers one by one. So ngRepeat is telling person in developers. We can see that developers is the model here, that is an array of objects, person objects. So I think this person, it can be XYZ or whatever you want to name it. It has the similar syntax in PHP, like for each X in something, or some jQuery syntax for each or dot each. That kind of thing is here, and you can see the for the model. Then each of the developers has become person, and we are just showing the name and corresponding country here. And the main controller is there, and it has to be within the scope that is always there. It's the same thing, just written twice. So you can see in ngRepeat for each of the developer there is a loop. Each of the object is becoming person. We are displaying the name Fox, country Spain, name Dave, country Canada. So you can use ngRepeat for that purpose. Okay, now custom directives. Here we will be defining that focus directive. So here we want this text box to get focus when this form will get loaded. So we can use some focus. We have to write the focus directive here. So how we are doing it? App.directive. You have to create the app module and the controller, and inside that controller, you have to define the app module, and then you have to define the directive focus, and what it is doing. The first element, it is taking the focus there. And then at the link, it is some sort of Angular stuff. It just has some linking phase when the page gets initially loaded. In that phase, it is assigning the focus to the first element of the form. So that was one form of custom directive. Now we are using it focus here. You can see. Okay, now another custom directive, as you told, we can write our own directive that can be used as HTML tag, and they will be doing some functionality based on what we define for that directive. So you're defining a directive called hello. So hello will be just like an HTML tag, and wherever you put this HTML hello as an HTML tag starting and ending tag as a hello, what will be happening? It will be displaying the text in there. So you're defining app directive and those things. Okay, filters. Filters, it's just applying some functionality on something and giving some other output. Okay, so let's see. We are printing some numbers here, so we can assign some predefined Angular filters like currency or something like this. So if we apply the currency filter, it will come as in the money format, currency format, with $sign in the beginning and probably a comma after every 3 digits from the right side. So something like this filters. It works. You can see currency, we're applying it to this. So okay, this is what it is. I think if you are familiar with the Linux or Unix piping, it is just syntax is something like this. And in our previous example, where we were displaying all the developers' names and their countries, Here we can also apply some filter here, just order by name. So what will happen then? Yeah, all the developers will be got displayed, but they will be sorting by their name. We could also apply, let's say, first see this order by name. So all the developer list they will be ordered by their name. So we are applying some order by filter on the list of the developers. Now we could also apply filter like search. So we could search the developers list and also could show a partial list of the developers that matches the search. So we can apply this filtered search to some control as well. You can say this search, this model, I think these are being bounded. So whatever we will search, whatever we will write in this text box, based on the text, the search will be done, and a partial list of the developers will be displayed based on the search result. So you know how to use the filter, and you can also define your own filter, and you can apply it in different cases. Let's see, we'll be defining one of our custom filter called capitalize. If we have the purpose is, if this filter will be applied on some text, that text will get capitalized and it will be displayed as a capital text in the user interface. So capitalize, we are just defining the filter. So you can see we are just making the text uppercase. So this is some text we are applying capitalize, so it will get capitalized. Now one another important concept is service. So far you could say that we have controllers as this and that, scope, function, and something like this. But sometimes it can happen that multiple controller, they may have very similar functionality to implement or to work with. So in that case, defining the same function in different controller may not be a great idea. Probably we can take that controller out and put it some as a standalone function, and we can use that function in different controllers. So this function that is being used by different controllers is now can be called as a service. That's what it is. Now app factory user information, here user information is being a service. So different Angular controller will be able to use this user information service. So you can see here app controller, main control, and this is the second control. One controller, second controller, both are calling this service. Okay, this is how it's been working in the backend. So this is the reference, and another thing is Chrome. Chrome has an extension Batarang that can show what is happening with your AngularJS application in the backend using some sort of visual presentation that will help to understand your Angular application. You also need to understand the apply, $watch, $digest, and all those things for Angular. But those are not something that you will directly use, but they are working in the back. But if you want to optimize your application, you have to use those things there. Okay, another thing, let's say as I told, we have another training video that explains a complete Angular application. Probably we'll get some more ideas from there. And we'll discuss in another training video the performance improvement or browser support, or how to make Angular support multiple language like Canadian English, Canadian French, or US English. Those internalization, the robustness or security or performance increase or testing strategies in Angular. We'll be focusing on those in some other training videos. And for now, we just discussed some fundamental coding concepts in Angular. But ideally, if you're familiar with web development, and if you have done some other mobile development, maybe this for this platform or Angular, or responsive or BlackBerry or iPhone, probably this can be more than enough information to start. Probably what more you will need? You will need just the reference guide where you can just see what directive is for what, and later on, or probably some example code, complete example code. You can just find some analogy and write your own application. It depends. Not necessarily you need the exact kind of experience in Angular. Probably you can borrow your experience from other related areas, and using some analogy and some consulting with web or Angular reference guide, you will easily be able to write an Angular application. And probably if you watch our guide on the robustness or browser support or security, those will help you make your application more robust and also optimize your landing page or provide security and test your application. I think you will get some ideas from there. Another thing, if you go to our website sitestree.com, you'll be getting some articles on it. Actually, I wrote some little bit of short notes and I scheduled them, so probably every day one or two will appear in the website, so you can check them out. Anyway, thank you a lot and have a good day, have a good weekend. Thank you.